I'd like to welcome everybody to the Thursday, May 28th meeting of the Greene County Commissioners. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Glazer.
Here.
Mr. Gould.
Here.
Mr. Kugler.
Here.
Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hope everyone that is watching this also did the Pledge of Allegiance with us at home.
Well, I hope so, too. Could we please have the approval of the minutes? Anybody? Comments?
I move that we approve the minutes of the meeting of May 21st, 2020 as submitted.
I will second that motion.
Call the question.
Mr. Glazer.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Mr. Kugler.
Aye.
Okay. Any public comment, Brandon?
None was received.
Okay. Moving on then to approval of the vouchers.
So you just have one. We received an additional allocation of monies for foster parent outreach, so some of that is going to be the big billboard on 35. Foster parent, it's always tough to find them, so statewide and across the country, it's hard to find them, so they're doubling down, putting some money behind,
Good.
trying to bring attention to that.
Good.
I think that's a good idea because there's people that want to be involved with children and raising children, and for whatever reason they can't have children. This is an opportunity for them to try to make a connection, and hopefully it works out.
No further comments. I move to approve the vouchers as submitted.
Second?
Call the question.
Mr. Glazer.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Mr. Kugler.
Aye.
Next order of business is transfer of appropriations.
Really a couple on there for sanitary engineering, moving some money to pay the OWDA debt service payment for the Shawnee Hills project as it's due, and MBJRC at state fiscal year end, moving money around to make sure that they spend the entire budget, just moving it around from unspent fund areas to places where they can expend the grant dollars to hopefully not return any.
Any questions, comments? Motion?
I move that we approve the transfer of appropriations as submitted.
I will second that motion.
Call the question.
Mr. Glazer.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Mr. Kugler.
Aye.
Personnel actions.
Really, we've got one resignation on there, young lady, sad to see her go, but she's made the decision to be a stay-at-home mom. So weighed the expenses and the options and decided against coming back.
No further comments. I move that we approve the appointments, separations, transfers, and status changes as submitted.
Second?
Call the question.
Mr. Glazer.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Mr. Kugler.
Aye.
Next order of business is honoring Cleo Watts.
Edward Cleo Watts. He's a character. Anybody that knows him knows, even though I've been in tough situations with Cleo over many years, he always big smile or a laugh in the conversation somewhere. But he's just done a tremendous job with the kids and with the families. I mean, really is a guy that genuinely makes a connection, and that's what made him successful over his 32 years with juvenile court. He's been the detention counselor, boys residential treatment center counselor, probation officer, and now is director of residential treatment centers, and now the director of the intervention center throughout his career. So this resolution wishes him well in his retirement.
He's a character, that's for sure, and I think we all wish him well in his retirement. Any motion, comments?
I move that we approve the resolution honoring Cleo Watts for his service in Greene County.
I will second that motion.
Call the question.
Mr. Glazer.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Mr. Kugler.
Aye.
Next order of business is an authorization to apply for an OCJS grant. This is for COVID-19 for the sheriff.
Yes, fiscal year 2020 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant. It'll allow for reimbursement of expenses related to coronavirus prevention, preparation, and response. It'll operate for 1 year. This is a first come, first serve. Once the money's claimed, it's gone. So time is of an essence to get this thing submitted. we can go back and pay for some of the gloves and masks and Lysol and things that we've had to buy. So
Good.
How long do we have and how much money are we looking at?
they'll, I don't know how much the dollar amount is. I don't believe it was on here. They'll have to see what they can get. But it's a 1 year starting, and it started March 1st.
Okay,
No further questions. I move to approve the Greene County Sheriff's Office request to apply for the fiscal year 2020 Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Grant through the Office of Criminal Justice Services.
Second?
call the question.
Mr. Glazer?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Mr. Kugler?
Aye.
Next order of business is establishing a new fund, 2735.
Yeah, this is another change that Judge Tornicio is making at juvenile court, which I personally think is a positive change. He saw some gaps as he came there. You know, he added a new technology fund fee a couple weeks ago that you all approved. This is a indigent fee recoupment fund. This is for cases where a public defender is assigned on behalf of a youth, even though the child's custodian is well over the poverty rate. So there's no requirement to prove that I'm indigent in order to get a public defender for my minor child to be defended in juvenile court. So he's identified that as a mechanism by which those parents or custodians are sort of getting off scot-free with the defense of their child. So he's going to add this additional fee, so to make up for some of those costs.
Is that a fee that would be just for, assessed to everybody?
No, only in cases where your income, we ask you what your income is.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's well above the poverty rate. You'll be assessed a fee.
Do they have the right to ask that question?
Yes, yes.
I'm good.
All right. I move that we approve the establishment of a new fund, Fund Number 2735.
I will second that motion.
Call the question.
Mr. Glazer?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Mr. Kugler?
Aye.
Approving the DYS amendment for fiscal year 2020. This is for juvenile court.
Yeah, each year we need a amendment to adjust the budget that was submitted to reflect changes that were made over the course of the agreement. So this one, the changes are identifying a fiscal grants officer that they'd like to hire, vendors finalized for their capital improvements at the Intervention Center and Assessment Center, annual hour adjustments for program staff due to the extra pay period in 2020, the retirement of Mr. Watts and the appointment of an interim director at the Intervention Center, adjustment of program expenditures, and the addition of 2 grant awards. So as things change in their budget, we need to modify the agreement to match actual occurrences.
He's doing a good job over there, for sure. Questions?
Yeah, I had a question. This is the one, basically, with regards to the salaries on this for the time period and the administration of it, they're about 50K, I think, as I recall, if I remember right going through this. The administrator and another person for, I don't know, so many hours, it was at the rate of about roughly 50,000 a year.
Okay?
Is that normal administration costs or something like this?
So if you're talking about the director's salary, Mr. Watts was at a higher rate of pay than that, but they want to appoint an interim director, so my guess is they're bringing them in at a little less than Cleo was getting at being a 32-year employee.
Okay. Okay,
No further questions. I move to approve Greene County Juvenile Court's request of the attached DYS amendment for fiscal year 2020.
Second?
call the question.
Mr. Glazer?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Mr. Kugler?
Aye.
Approving the amendment number 5 for Aramark for juvenile food services.
The saga continues for poor Captain Goodman out at the Adult Detention Center. She manages this contract, but this was all set to go right before the shutdown related to COVID. So in order to keep us good on our existing contract, this is our second extension to the current Aramark contract. This one will extend the contract through August 15th. We think that that gives plenty of time from the bid opening that's on July 30th, I believe, somewhere in there. Enough time to evaluate those bids and award a bid
Good.
prior to the expiration.
Why is the COVID-19 holding us up?
We couldn't meet face-to-face for a mandatory pre-bid meeting predominantly, and then we couldn't come in here to open bids, and it just, it threw a wrench in our schedule that we had established prior to that.
We couldn't do this over the phone?
You can't do a mandatory pre-bid meeting with all of the vendors. They didn't feel comfortable that they could have done that, because their original pre-bid, mandatory pre-bid would have been, I believe, days, if not a week after the shutdown. At that time, nobody had Zoom in place. We
Yeah,
weren't prepared
okay.
to do that.
And this is a
Nobody's done
problem.
anything wrong here. It's just a victim of circumstance.
And this is a bid that we had some controversy on several years ago anyway with another competitor, so.
Absolutely.
We really have to dot the i's and cross the t's.
So you're gonna have two of these extensions. The one in front of you is for the juvenile detention and Miami Valley Juvenile Rehab Center.
So the other one is for the jail over here?
The next one's gonna be for the jail and the adult detention center.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
Motion?
I move that we approve the amendment number 5 to the Aramark contract for juvenile food service.
I will second that motion.
Call the question.
Mr. Glazer?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Mr. Kugler?
Aye.
Next order of business is approving the amendment number 5 for Aramark for the jail food service.
Same terms and conditions extended to August 15th.
I move to approve amendment number 5 to the amended and restated operating agreement with Aramark Correction Services LLC for food service at the jail and adult detention center.
Second.
Call the question.
Mr. Glazer?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Mr. Kugler?
Aye.
Granting easement between Greater Green Little Miami Sewer District and the Park District.
Park District is providing you with an easement on the Jacob's Landing property for the whopping cost of $1. This is to facilitate the installation of our wells, public water wells 13 and 14. Jacob's Landing is as you turn right from Dayton Xenia onto Treybine Road. You go to cross the water, it's to the left there. That's where we're going to install our next 2 water wells. That property is owned by the Park District, so they're providing you an easement. You need to accept that easement.
Are those wells going to have to be elevated because of floodplain?
Yes.
Okay.
They don't necessarily have to be, but we
Yeah,
choose to do it that way.
right.
We have kind of a mixed bag, but we found some success in doing the elevated vertical turbine pumps rather than
It's gotta be
submersible.
easier to work on everything.
Still, during a flood, you can't get to them, but
Right.
it protects, better protects the electric components.
I'm
That
good.
floods in there quite a bit.
Yep.
They've already got that well pretty well dug, don't they?
They've drilled some test wells.
Is that what they were doing?
Yeah, that's on the other side.
Yeah, okay. Motion?
All right. I move that we approve granting an easement between Greater Green Little Miami Sewer District and the Park District.
I second that motion.
Call the question.
Mr. Glazer?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Aye.
Mr. Kugler?
Aye.
That concludes our business for today. Anybody have any comments? Thomas?
I'm good.
No?
Good.
Okay.
I do have one thing that I'd like to bring
Brandon?
up, and if we were operating in our typical nature, we'd have a work session, discuss it. I just put in your boxes late this morning or early this afternoon, a copy of an email from the Xenia City Manager. One of the project, I'm not asking you to make a decision today, we're past that, or sort of in a work session, but one of the things that we had committed to a couple of years ago was to participate in the extension of Innovation Way over to 68.
Yes.
As a part of the Greene County Career Center's installation, they purchased that property, they provided the land for the city to do that. I've had some back and forth with the city manager about, our willingness to, live up to our commitment to supply some money for that road. And I reminded him it was our intention that we would seek some Ohio Public Works money to get a grant to put in, to pay for a lion's share of that road. Well, as it turns out, and I've briefed you all before, without a end user on innovation, there's no way that we'll get a grant fund for that. Well, as I understand it, in the negotiations with the Career Center, the city agreed to go ahead and extend that road now. So city managers reaching back out to us, asking, their bids came in, they've moved ahead with the project. They're asking us for $575,000 for our share of that piece of road. Originally, when we talked about this in concept, in a work session with them, we had agreed that we had an appetite for about $650,000, no more than that. Times have changed though, and I've reminded the city manager of that over the past couple of months. We have no idea what kind of dollars we're gonna have, but the reality for the city is they went out to bid for this prior to this all happening and the economy crashing as it did. So they're on the hook for the entire cost of this project. And if we choose not to, or we delay financial contribution, they'll be forced to go out and borrow our share of the money, maybe some of their share of the money, I'm not sure. So you can see that email in your box and read about it. I'd like you to give it some thought, either reach out to me one-on-one, or we'll have another discussion next week. I know you're ill-prepared probably to weigh in on it now without having a chance to digest it a little bit, but I wanted to get that out there, make you aware that it's there, get it on your radar.
I read the memo, I read your thing already, and I just, if we made the commitment, I think we need to follow through with it. Have we got any feedback from the treasurer as to what this whole COVID thing is costing us?
So
Do we
we're
have
sti-
any idea where we're going with this?
We're still operating under the Budget Commission's estimate that we'll be down roughly $8 million in revenue. That's the official estimate that we've been given from Budget Commission, so we have to take that into consideration. My feeling is that it's gonna be a bit higher than that, but Commissioner Glazer, it's like standing here and throwing a dart at a dartboard to try to hit that number. I mean, there's intuition, there's a little bit of evidence, there's anecdotal information out there, there are estimates from OMB, there's some numbers on what car sales are looking like. But if I was pressed to give you a number,
You couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it with any sense of accuracy at this point.
Okay, well, we made the commitment to Xenia, and the construction is proceeding ahead.
Yes,
Or has proceeded ahead, let's put it that way.
yes.
I think we need to follow through on the commitment, but I would ask you between now and maybe the next meeting or whenever you want to discuss this again, that you look into the finances as to what that number actually is or should be, in terms of what Xenia agreed to with the contractors, what the cost of that's going to be, and then we'll look at what our number is, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I haven't
I
seen.
think that needs to be done.
Yeah, I need to do my due diligence on it, but there was an understanding that as part of that project, they were laying water lines and sewer lines. We never agreed to do any of that infrastructure. We did agree
It's for the
to
road.
participate in the road itself.
Yeah, we don't own the utilities. Those are
Correct.
theirs.
Correct.
We did agree to take and do something with the road. And what I'm saying is I think we need to define or get some realistic figure on what the road cost,
Yeah,
and then we'll pay our share.
yes, we need to feel
And if we have to
comfortable.
do it, now, I think we need to go ahead with it. But I think we need to do us a little homework as to what that road's actually costing, and not all the utilities and everything else that they're trying to put into that.
Well, you know me, I'd split a nickel with them if I
I know
felt like
you
it was
will, and I'm
appropriate.
confident about that.
I know in discussions I had with Xenia, when this, well, actually, probably, I think the day before we shut down, they said that a lot of the problem that what incurred cost overruns is soils. There's something to do with soils, and they came in as a different type, and it requires, I don't know if it's compaction, or there's something to do with the soil that caused the road to be more expensive, is the biggest part of it.
Still, the number is well below the $1.3 million estimate they had originally for the road. I mean, it's like 1.1 and change. It's still quite a bit lower than that original, so.
And I think also, too, I think we need to consider that this will add considerable value to Innovation Way,
Makes it
Yes.
very,
It
very
gives
much
us
more
access
attractive.
to 68.
because that's, my understanding is that's been the biggest hiccup with any potential developers or users, are that they said, we need access to the highway,
Right.
direct access.
Sure.
That brings up the other question. There's in the stuff we had in our boxes, there's a comment in there about a potential person for that way. You don't want to talk about that.
Well, I don't have any further information on it. I mean,
Why
what
don't
was
you get
said,
some information on it and find out about it?
Yeah.
Get back with us on that, because, you know, we've been trying to do something with that property for a long time, and we thought we had something engineered, and apparently that's fallen through, with regards to financing.
Yep.
So, let's see what's cooking and get ahead of that bulb instead of rolling around behind it.
yeah, it's not that I don't want to talk about it, I'm ill prepared to speak to it with any specificity because there's just a hint that there's some interest there, and I need to get with my development folks and dig farther into it.
I think that would be a good idea.
Have we seen the final plans for that extension? And do we agree with the design? Do we think that's beneficial to us in the long run?
It's a good question. I saw a sketch a year or two ago. I think you and I were in a meeting with the manager and mayor, and they showed us a sketch. We were not given, we did not participate in the bid specs, the contract award. They ran this project themselves from start to
I
finish.
think we need to look at that and make sure that we are in agreement with that before we start writing a check to them, because.
I agree with you, Thomas.
if that's a
If they
problem.
if they didn't design that to hook up to our property properly, they're on their own.
Or if it's been designed to where it's beneficial to the Career Center and not beneficial as an access.
That's exactly my
We
point.
need to be-
If
we
it,
need to be
if
careful.
it doesn't work that way,
Sure.
then you're on your own.
Yeah. well,
Because that was the agreement, or at least that was the understanding that I had when we made the agreement with the city of Xenia, that it would be profitable for both of us to have such an extension. That's the way it was presented to us, and that's why we agreed to take and go halvesies on it.
And we know it can't be a straight across, it can't bisect the property straight and line up with innovation, but I hear what you're saying. We did say that it's supposed to line up directly at that intersection and be navigable by large truck traffic. It can't have,
It
sharp
can't be a
turns.
short jog.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about, is all of a sudden we have a whole bunch of S-curves in it that trucks can't navigate, but they do it in order to keep the traffic speed down for sake of the school.
Right.
From looks of it out there, it is a straight-through shot. But
We
but
just-
you still need to look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do some due diligence before I bring it back. We just I needed to know what the appetite of the board is, if we're ready to, stroke that check if we're comfortable with everything, or if we're
Yeah,
not.
I don't think we need to do a resolution, but I think they need to have at least, get a letter of approval from us saying that we agree with this design, if we're gonna be part of that, signing that check.
Well, we'll get copies of it. We'll circulate that so you can see what it is. And then the way any official action would happen here is you'd be presented with the payment request. It'd be on the list of vouchers for a bill for you to pay.
Okay.
The only other piece that I have for you that I want to make you aware is we had a conference call this morning with the sanitary engineering team. As you know, we're well started on our water plant design. So we discussed this morning, we will be reaching out to Bellbrook and the city of Xenia to just once again gauge their interest in some options
Well,
while
if
we're in
there's
design.
If there's ever an opportunity for them, this is it.
If they wish to purchase water from us for, softened water, we need to know now so we can build the capacity into our plant. So we're gonna have a brief discussion with them, lay it out there, gauge their interest one more time before we move. We can't slow the project down, and we'd have to work out terms of the details, but it's sort of are you interested or you have no interest at all? And that'll help plan our steps forward. But again, we're not gonna delay our project, but I don't wanna wait 6, 8 months and then say, oh, I wish you'd asked us, it'll be too late at that point, so.
Make sure that there's some kind of piece of paper that says you have a deadline of X day to take and do it. Because in the future, if a question comes up about, well, if you should have, could have, or would have, then the piece of paper says,
You got the document.
yes, we've got something in writing that says this is the deadline.
Yeah,
If we don't hear from you, we anticipate that the answer is no.
Yep, it's gonna be a short turnaround.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
Good.
Nope. Brandon,
That's it.
we are adjourned.